Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Our guest today is Alicia Stukes, and she's an associate broker with Exit One Stop Realty. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you. I'm great and glad to be here.
Because you are a Prince George's County resident, a Prince George's County native, so you know a lot about this county, very familiar with it.
Yes.
So today we're going to be discussing the real estate market here in Maryland, here in Prince George's County, and particularly Bowie.
Yes.
So would this be considered the spring season, or are we still in the winter?
We're still in the winter season. Actually, we do not transition to the spring season until the end of February. That's called the freeze-thaw season, and actually it also depends on exactly what type of winter we've had. So just in past years, like last year in March, we actually still had some wintry mixes that were coming about, which kind of pushed the real estate market just past the middle of March, after the traditional freeze-thaw season.
So how are things going so far?
So far, the market is actually still booming, to be honest with you. Prince George's County currently has about a little over 1,000 single-family homes that are actively listed, which is really great. Sellers are actually seeing competitive bids on their properties. They're even in a position of getting multiple offers, so that's even wonderful as well. One of the things that we're also seeing in the market is we're getting more buyers qualified. So that's even awesome within itself. So our price point right now for homes, specifically single family homes, is ranging from $100,000, that's for a modest Cape Cod, all the way up to $2.6 million. Okay, so that's in our Woodmore area of Prince George's County, you know, and then also too, we're seeing a big thrive in new construction. So we're really happy about that as well, because at the onset of the housing market crash, new construction was just pretty much halted. And beginning in 2011, it pretty much started to pick back up at a slow pace, but now it's really thriving. So we're happy about that.
So right now, would you say it's better for the buyer or the seller?
I would say, to be honest with you, it's a good seller's market because they're able to get competitive bids, but it's also a good buyer's market because buyers are now able to have more programs as far as assistance, with allowing them to be able to have down payment costs, closing cost assistance. And that is helping more buyers actually get into the homes, be a part of the American dream.
You've been in this business for quite a while. So you've been through a lot as far as seeing the market and the many ups and downs.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that, because you got involved in the early 2000s?
Yes. So I became licensed in 2003, and that was actually in the boom of the housing market. There were buyers being able to get into homes for as little as $500 down, and that was unprecedented. So when that market actually crashed, which was pretty much at the onset of 2008, transitioning all the way through 2011, you didn't have a whole lot of buyers being able to qualify. The banks basically made it almost, I'm not going to say impossible, basically they tightened up on their lending requirements. Also, too, home buyers were actually required to bring a little more money to the table, being able to close with money out of their pocket beyond the $500 that they were able to close with from 2002 all the way to 2007. Yeah.
So how have things changed since then? Because, of course, we had the big crash. How did that affect you?
So it really didn't have too much of an effect on me. I was able to still sustain my business, basically focusing on buyers who did not have as much credit challenges that previous buyers had. Also, I started being an advocate for educating buyers. So one of the things that I do host is a home buyer seminar, and what I do is bring all of the team players, that are involved in that home buyer process to that circle of education. So we have our lender there, we have the home inspector there, we have our insurance person there, we have our title person there, and of course myself, the realtor. And it becomes an educational process from A to Z for that buyer. So when they walk away from that home buyer seminar, they're fully knowledgeable of what to expect. They are also empowered, because one of the things that we do is do a pre-qualification, just looking at, taking a snapshot of where they are credit-wise, income-wise, looking at their debt, And if they're in a position where they need to just do some work, some tweaks in any of those areas, we work alongside with them. We partner with them. We basically give them the tools that they need to address those areas so that within 6 months to 12 months, they're able to become a qualified buyer.
And Prince George's County has a new program that's dealing with new home buyers. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So this program was actually launched on January the 9th, and what it's called Pathways to Purchase, and it's allowing home buyers, first-time home buyers, to be able to get up to $10,000 towards a property that they're going to purchase. And this is a phenomenal tool for any home buyer that's a first-time home buyer that's looking to purchase a home, because what it does is it allows them to be able to take advantage of this money, this grant money, and to be able to purchase their first home.
Now, you know, I looked on the website today to kind of get an idea of what the program was about. And I know I've been a homeowner for 20 years, but I know just looking at what it can be kind of frightening. In other words, it just looks so complicated, and what you have to know, what you have to bring, the papers, the credit, so what can you say to take that fear out of the hearts of potential new home buyers?
Well, what I would say is most definitely it starts with being able to partner with a knowledgeable realtor who is going to basically assist you along with that process. Yes, there are a lot of stages with being able to qualify for the grant, because one of the requirements, of course, is you have to have a specific debt to income ratio within the percentage. There's also qualifying with the number of occupants who are going to be in the home with you. That's also a requirement. And then, of course, credit as well. So when you're partnering with your realtor, who is working with you alongside with your loan officer, who is an approved loan officer for this program, that partnership is going to get you through the processes, because one of the other things that is required with this program is that not only does the home that you're looking to purchase have to go through a regular home inspection, which is beneficial to you, the buyer, but also to Prince George's County Community Development, which is the vehicle who is basically maintaining this grant money. They require that the property has to go through their inspection as well. So there's 2 inspections that would take place for the property. And as the home buyer, you need to be knowledgeable of what that inspector who's representing Prince George's County Community Development is looking for in that property. And I'm speaking of myself, being the realtor and the home buyer, we're going to know that on the front end. I'm going to make sure that I clearly educate my buyer of these are the properties that you need to be looking at, because they're going to fall within those guidelines of that home inspection qualification, so that we're not wasting time and we're not looking at properties that would not be able to pass that home inspection.
Well, let's talk about from the beginning. If you're a young couple and you're considering buying a home, what are some of the things you need to get started? What are some of the basic, bottom line things you need to even begin looking?
The first thing that you need to do is to take a good look at your credit. Look and see exactly where your credit scores are, and not just with one bureau. You need to look at all 3, because your loan officer, your lender, they're going to look at all 3 of those credit reports. The second thing you need to look at is your debt to income ratio. Have you basically taken yourself above a certain percentage, which would then not leave you with enough disposable income to be able to purchase or to be able to pay a mortgage in some cases. The other thing that you need to look at is your budget. Exactly what do you have coming in every month as far as income, and what do you have going out every month as far as income. And basically that's a part of the home buying process. When we do our home buying seminar, we actually have them do a budget worksheet, and we're using real numbers. So they're plugging those in. And once we do that worksheet, we basically say, at the end of the day, this is what you have left. So they may be in a position where they need to do some tweaking, or they may be fine, perfectly, debt to income ratio is very low, and they're ready to just start at that point to actually do a pre-qualification, which is the next phase with the credit. So
what about the people who say, my credit's not great, so it's, I'm not even going to try?
We get that all the time. And one of the things that I basically start with, I understand you have your own self-assessment, but let's take a look together. Because what happens is we'll find that a lot of buyers have done their own self-assessment, and it may be some items on their credit report that would not be disqualifiers for them in order to get the mortgage. So we basically encourage them to come in, sit down, let's look at the credit together. And if there are some challenges on the credit report, then we basically address them and give them guidance on how to correct them. We also use a simulator. It's called a credit simulator. And if in fact that prospective purchaser is not quite at that 640, 660 credit score, which most lenders and programs are requiring them to have, we identify items that are on their credit report and basically say, this is what you need to address. These are the items that we need for you to basically pay down or get them to a certain point of, lowered amounts. And that way we can bring your credit score up the points that are required in order to get you to that 640 or that 660.
We've heard how many couples have gotten into trouble when it comes to taking on mortgages that they really, really can't afford. And so many people lost out as a result of that. What should people beware of?
I would say most definitely prospective home buyers should most definitely be beware of someone that's predatory in their lending practices. Now, one of the things that was...
What's considered predatory lending?
Where they're basically coming after a group of persons or people who technically would not qualify for a mortgage, but they're able to get one anyway. That's one example of it. But one of the things I will say, as a result of the formal housing market, President Obama was able to put a lot of what I call stopgaps in place to prevent that from happening again. And hopefully those measures will stay in place, because a lot of home buyers, again, were purchasing homes with as little as $500 into the transaction, which is unheard of. But also, too, they were getting loan products that really should not have been introduced to them. They were put in loan products that were considered, arms. They were able to adjust over a certain period of time. And these buyers were able to have a mortgage for, let's say, as low as $1,500 a month. But after a certain period of time, that mortgage adjusted. And so they went from $1,500 a month to $2,200 a month. And their income just could not sustain that mortgage payment. So these home buyers or homeowners at that point were now forced into foreclosure. A lot of them became homeless, or they basically had to go to other measures and means. And what happened with them was that they fell into what I consider to be predatory lending or borrowers. We had loan officers and lenders who were going after them and basically selling them a loan product that they technically should not have been sold.
But you said that there have been some safeguards put in place.
Yes.
Since then.
Yes.
So in 2017, what should we look out for?
2017, we actually now have a new disclosure guidelines, and that actually happened. It was put in place in fall of 2016. And what happens with that buyer is they go through 2 disclosure processes. The first one is an estimate closing disclosure. So at the time that they're submitting their loan application with their lender, the lender basically sits down with them within 3 days after which and basically provides them with a full disclosure sheet showing exactly what their closing costs are going to be, what their estimated monthly mortgage will be, and also it identifies the interest and the amortization of the loan. So they're seeing exactly from day one of that, at the onset of their application, exactly how much financing they're going to actually pay for the purchase of that property. And then, let me add the last part of it. For 3 days prior to their closing, they had what's called a closing disclosure. So again, that loan officer is disclosing to that buyer exactly what they need to bring to the table as far as closing costs. They're also identifying again their monthly mortgage payment. They're also identifying again what their interest rate will be for the life of the loan. So there are no hiccups whatsoever, and that buyer is fully knowledgeable and disclosed as to exactly what it's going to cost to purchase that property.
All of these topics you can do at least 2 or 3 shows on, because there's this is such a vast area, the whole real estate market. But I want to touch on a little bit of everything. What about if you're interested in selling your home? You've been in the home for 20 years, you're ready to retire, ready to kind of scale it down a little bit. What's the first thing you should do?
Call me. That's the first thing. The second thing is, once you have placed that call to me, I'm going to schedule a meeting with you, the prospective seller, at your property. We're going to walk the property, basically take a look at its condition, but most importantly, we're going to look at exactly what your payoff is. Because depending on what you've done since you've owned that property will dictate if it's a good time for you to sell the property. There may have been a, oh goodness, I'm losing my thought. You may have refinanced. Thank you. Your property. And it puts you in a position where you actually do not have as much equity in the home that you need in order to have that profit number that you want at the end. So once we're sitting down at the table and I'm actually looking at your payoff, looking exactly where that property is as far as with the competitive market currently today, we make a good decision, and I provide you with the tools, but ultimately it's you, the owner, that make the decision whether or not it's good for you to sell right now. Once we've looked at those numbers and I've done the property inspection, then I give you additional information in order to prepare your property for the market, get it ready for sale.
What do you think is the main barrier to people being able to sell their house? Why do some houses sell more quickly than others? And I know there are various reasons.
Well, one, of course, is location and property type. Southern Prince George's County still has somewhat of a stigmatization of not being able to draw a high-end buyer. So if a property is in Capitol Heights, they may not be able to, and the homeowner says, I want $250,000 to $300,000 for my home. It may be in an area that doesn't command that price tag. And so with that being said, that would prevent that owner from selling at the price point that he or she is looking to achieve. The other thing would be just competitiveness. You know, we have a lot of new construction that's being generated and put into the marketplace right now. So you will have a buyer who may say, I want a new construction home versus a resale home.
What would your recommendation be? I know it's up to the individual person, the couple, or whatever, but I've always wondered that. Is it better to go new construction or an established home?
It is totally based off of what the buyer is looking for. New construction, of course, are usually at the higher price points, and also too, depending on exactly where that buyer's budget is, they may not be able to qualify for new construction. So they may have to start off with their first home being a resale home, which is fine because you use that to build upon.
So that's considered not lower, but buying a new construction home is considered a better purchase? I know I'm not wording that correctly.
It usually is a more higher purchase in price point. New construction nowadays, just using, I'll use townhomes as an example, they're basically being able to be priced at $350,000 and above for a townhome structure. Single family homes are basically able to be constructed at a price point of about $400,000 and above. So again, if you have a first-time home buyer and they're not quite there at that price point, they then will have to look at resales as their property choices because they're just not in that price point for new construction.
That's interesting. I always wondered that because I, have relatives. At the time, my husband and I, we chose new construction, where I have a relative who chose an established home, an established neighborhood. And I was wondering, how is that viewed in the real estate business?
Well, again, it's really the buyer's choice. What do they prefer? A lot of new construction single family homes don't have the same lot size as resale properties did that were constructed in the 60s and the 70s. The lots were a little bit bigger. Also, too, you have single family homes that actually focus on the amenities of what's inside of the home versus the actual lot itself, the land. With townhomes, you have their focal point, again, is just lot size. You know, you'll have a townhome that may now be 4 stories, whereas a townhome that was constructed in the 90s was just 3 levels.
Is how you prepare your home, is that important in being able to sell that home?
Absolutely. It's the most important thing because, again, it's about competition. You're preparing your home to be able to be competitive with the next property that's also in the market, that's a block over or a mile away, that offers the same amenities as your home as far as size, as far as the number of rooms, as far as age. But you need to make your property be that property that's going to attract that buyer pool so that you get an offer.
For example, if you had been meaning to get the kitchen done, you have the same kitchen that was there when you bought the home 20 years ago, should you bother to get that done, or should you have that money, use that money as, you know, more of an investment into the new property?
You would want to make sure, well, let me just say this. Kitchens, bathrooms, and bedroom closets usually will sell a home. Those are the amenities.
Bedroom closets,
yes,
who knew?
Because space. You look at the average home buyer now, and we have a lot of personal possessions. So we need to have that closet space to accommodate those personal possessions. Bathrooms most definitely are important because, again, most females want to have enough space in their bathroom to accommodate all their personal possessions as well, but also to have that room to just make it usable, you know, for makeup application, you know, or a nice sized bathtub for bathing. Kitchens are most definitely a selling focal point because they are where a lot of families spend a lot of times, whether it's meal prep, kids at the table doing homework, you know, a mom might be doing arts and crafts or something like that. A lot of time is spent in that kitchen, and it needs to afford the space as well for the home buyer because a lot of personal possessions are stored there, from appliances to dishes to everything. So that homeowner who has a home that was constructed in 1970, 1980, 1990, and they have not basically did any type of renovations or upgrades in that home, specifically in those rooms, they're going to find that it's going to be challenging for them to sell their property.
Really?
Yes.
So invest in updating that kitchen, updating those
Absolutely.
the bathrooms and.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then also to look at the exterior. You know, what is the condition of your roof? When was the last time you actually had an assessment done on your roof to make sure that it's in the best shape that it can be? Look at your components within the home, your hot water heater, your HVAC system. Those are the things that new home buyers are looking for because when they go through that home inspection, that home inspector is pointing out the age of those components and basically doing an estimate of the life expectancy. So if it's right there at the end of its life expectancy, the buyer is more inclined to say, well, I don't want to have to deal with a failing roof or a hot water heater or an air conditioning system that may actually, you know, die next year. I would rather purchase something that's going to give me a few more years before I have to replace those things.
I want to spend a little bit more time on, before we have to wrap it up, on the program that the county is doing right now and what people need to know in order to find out more information about that.
They need to call me.
And we will give your information at the end of the program.
Okay. Well, most importantly, the county received basically $750,000. That money is going to go very quickly because if in fact each applicant is able to qualify for up to $10,000, that's going to allow them to pretty much help a little under 100 families. They're expecting to receive more, another $250,000 to give them a cap at $1 million, but they haven't gotten the approval on that yet. So what we're looking at doing is being able to, you know, service as many families as possible, specifically now while the money is just really getting utilized. This week, the Prince George's County Community Development is doing their training for their lenders. So they're making sure that they're trained on the program, the specifics for the program, and getting them certified. So they will actually have a certification number. And so what's important for the buyers to know is now is the time to actually connect with a loan officer and a realtor to find out if in fact you actually qualify for this program, and to be able to get your application in. Of course, it's first come, first serve.
Yes.
And they're basically, from what I understand, Prince George's County Community Development is guaranteeing basically a 21-day process from the time of receipt in a complete package. That's the key. It has to be complete. If there's any items that are required.
And that takes working with a good realtor to make sure
yes.
that you complete all the things you need to complete, that you have all your, as my dad would say, you have all your ducks in a row.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's one of the things we're going to most definitely stress with our buyers. We're sending a complete package over to Prince George's County Community Development, because we don't want any hiccups, and we do not want our package not to be approved. So getting it through that process system of that 21 days is very key. And then also too, that allows our buyer to be able to get to closing in the time frame we have stipulated in that contract, not only to the buyer but also to that seller as well.
So much information in so little time. Like I said, this is such a broad area, so many things I wanted to touch on. I think I touched on a little bit of all of the things that I wanted to, but there's so much to go, which means you have to come back.
Yes, I would love to. Thank
Alicia
you.
Stukes, it's been a pleasure. Alicia Stukes is an associate broker for Exit One Stop Realty, and we'll give all of her information at the end of the program if this is something you're interested. If you're selling your home, if you're buying a home, or you're interested in buying a home, please give you a call, and you can give all the information, all of the education.
Yes.
Because people need to be educated on this stuff.
Yes.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness program. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.